What I'd like to show you now is how to take a sound file and eliminate one particular sound out of there that you may not want in there. How to isolate that sound and remove it. So first, what we need to do is create a new multi-track session. And you could just name it Sound Tiger. So then what we'll do is we'll take one particular track here, and this is the Tiger phone mixdown. So I've kind of combined both of the files, telephone and the Tiger, and then we put it onto the multi-track mixer here. What you'd want to do next is open the waveform. And with the waveform, you actually get this beautiful kind of spectral image of the track itself. And if you listen to it, you can actually hear the, you'll see the telephones are right here, and this is the Tiger roar as this moves through it. So what we'll want to do is actually eliminate these bands here. These are the two primary aspects of the telephone, and then you get a little bit of echo through there in these bands here. So you could use this selection tool right here and actually just highlight one of the bands and then hit delete. And then you could highlight another one and hit delete and highlight another and hit delete. And if you want, you could take out some of the lower end of the Tiger roar, but we won't do that just yet. And then you hit Command D to deselect. Now, if we actually put the soundtrack on, you can hear that by and large, most of the telephone sound is missing. Now, there are a number of other tools you can use to eliminate sound, and one of the ones that I really like is the painting tool. And you can set this very much like in Photoshop to any size that you want. You could make a very small tool for really pinpointing things, or you could make it much larger. So you could take actually the paint tool, and you can just go over certain sections like this, and then you could just hit delete. And then you could take sort of the paint tool somewhere else, and let's say we want to eliminate perhaps some of the Tiger roar. We could take it here, eliminate some of that, maybe some of the lower end. You have to make sure you hit delete each time. And a little bit more of the roar here. And then we'll eliminate some of the telephone track in here. Now, with the paintbrush tool, you can actually change your opacity and sort of just deaden the sound a little bit without eliminating it completely. So I'm just going to change the opacity here to maybe 20. And then we'll go through here. And you'll see there's still a residue within there. And perhaps I'll just quiet some of this part right here down. Now, we can go back to the beginning and listen through this and see what effect the both the selection tool right here and the paintbrush had. And of course, you can also use the outline to perhaps if you want to eliminate a certain shape and get rid of that. There we go. Now let's listen to these various tracks. So I'm going to eliminate a little bit more of the phones here. And I'm also going to eliminate some of the lower register of the tiger in various areas. And maybe cut a chunk out of here. And just listen to it as it goes through. There we go. That's what I'd like to show you now is how to work with pitch. So I've opened up a new multi-track file here, and I'm going to take this song called Kothbiro by a very fine Kenyan singer, and it was actually used in a few movies and things like that. So I want to show you how you can actually use pitch on a given file, and how you can actually take multiple files, layer them, and sort of have them singing in harmony. So I'll just let you listen to a little bit of the song. It's quite beautiful. We'll go back to the beginning here, and we'll just pause it. And I'm actually going to put 2 layers there so you can kind of listen to them at the same time. But for now, I'm just going to mute one of them. So you just hear sort of the pitch change in one of the files, and then you'll hear what happens when I actually bring them together. So we'll start with this first file, and there's several ways of getting to the effects. You can either go through the effects rack and just go through here, but I like to actually do it from up here. Okay, so what you do is go down to time and pitch and go to pitch shifter, and you get this panel coming up, and here's where you can actually affect the tones, the semitones, and essentially if you go to an 8, that would send you up about 1 octave. So if you want to work with harmonics, that's kind of how you can do it. So I'm just going to put it up by about 1 octave, and you can actually hear what it sounds like. And I'll move it up a little bit more to the voice. And we should put this on high precision. Now, you can actually shift these around while you're listening. So I'm going to shift this down 2 octaves to 8, minus 8, onto low precision. And you can hear the difference there. Okay, now I'm going to stop this, go back to the beat, or let's say just go to about here. And then I'm going to go to the next file, and I'm going to mute this one and open this one. And then for that one, what we'll have to do is actually open up a new effects, time and pitch shifter. And since that is down an octave, we'll put this up an octave. And you'll hear quite a difference between the two. And then later we're going to shift them a little bit closer together. So I've shifted that up an octave. And put this right about here. And you can listen to that. Now I'll stop it, and you're going to listen to them in harmony. Now, if I shift this just a little bit, you're going to start hearing discords in there. I can shift this one up just a couple of semitones, and then, or just even one, and shift this one also just a couple of semitones. And you hear that you start to get different forms of disharmony. And you can really kind of experiment a lot with these, you know, the different layering of voices. I'm going to put them both at 4 semitones, one above and one below. And then you're going to hear that once again, because they're 8 semitones apart, you actually just get more or less 1 octave. And if you want, you can start fine-tuning these also. Okay, so that's a lesson in just using pitch control. Now, one of the things that you notice, though, I'm just going to mute one of these, and I'll shift the other one back and forth here. I think that's one we've got here, is that even as you change the pitch, you don't actually change the speed of it. It sounds a little bit slower, but in fact, it's not. And you can get sort of, I should change that one too. And you get all sorts of interesting distortions happening as you change the pitches. We'll put that one back to 4 and unmute this one. And I have it on low precision, now it should be in high precision. Now we just slightly minimize a little bit the distortions. Okay. And here, okay, now I'm going to give you just some 3-part harmony, and you can actually see what that would sound like. We're going to start a new project here where I separate 2 soundtracks into the right and to the left speaker to create true stereo sound. So we're going to start with a new multi-track project, and we're going to call it Sound Split. And we need to drag in a few sounds. And so we could do a loon, a seagull, maybe a whale, and then we probably need some ocean sound. So we'll have ocean 1. And now we're going to take these sounds and layer them on these 2 separate tracks. So on the one, we'll have the animals, and the other will have the water, and then perhaps we'll add in a 3rd track somewhere in the middle. So I'll first put in perhaps a loon. That sounds like a pretty good sound to go with water. and then perhaps a seagull. And we'll stretch it out so we can see the whole thing. And then perhaps on the next track, we'll put some water ocean. To balance these towards an individual speaker, left or right, it's quite simple. We have these two toggles here, and that says stereo balance and stereo balance. In this one, we turn the toggle to the left, that makes the left balance, and you'll see the numbers there changing. However, you can also just type in the number, and that will be left 100. And that swings it exactly 100 points to the left. And this one, we'll start moving to the right, and we'll put in R 100. So if I bring the toggle back here and I play them, you're going to hear that you will hear that the sound is perfectly split between these two, and we'll play it. What we'll do first is we're going to put a whale sound here. On the next track, and we'll keep that one in the middle, but we'll mute it at times, and then and I think I'd like to copy and paste that. So now you can listen to it with the whale sound actually there in the middle. So you'll hear the seagull in the left speaker, the ocean in the right speaker, and the whale between the two. Now, I'm going to show you how to work the volume in various isolated places within the soundtracks. So what we need to do is to pick one particular soundtrack and go towards waveform. And we've already looked at the spectral waveform here, but I just want to take individual parts right here and make them louder and quieter. So you can use your selection tool here, the I bar, and just pick a certain amount, and here you can change the decibels. So that we'd like it to be a little bit louder. And then perhaps pick something here and make it a little bit quieter. And then pick another quieter section right here and make that a great deal louder. And then we will take another soundtrack here and alter those soundtracks just a little bit. So you have to go back into the waveform, and then you take your selection tool here, and again take parts of it and make it louder, and then perhaps another part and turn that down. And also, if you want to take the entire track and make it louder or quieter, you can just shift it here. And we'll take part of the whale track and make it much louder. So now let's listen to the track and see what differences we have made. And for this last bit, we will just mute the track. Okay, so that is how you work with stereo sound, splitting the two tracks. What we're going to do now is take this one clip and replace the soundtrack on it with a better soundtrack, which, however, the timing is out slightly. So I'll turn this one on, and you can actually hear there's a slight reverb, and that's something that we would like to get rid of.
What I would like to do now is to actually take this recording.
And you can hear it sounds like it's inside of an echo chamber.
Telephone call in the middle of it. And
so what I have here is a clip that I recorded at the same time on far better equipment. However, the sound is just a couple of frames out, and I'll put it on the timeline and I'll show you how to match them together. I'm going to zoom in, and you're going to notice that the tracks don't quite line up. What you'll see right here is when I recorded these sounds, I actually made a clap sound, sort of like this. And it left a marker on the soundtrack. So what I need to do is just to line these two up. And you can hear where the clap comes in and the clap comes in there. So what I need to do here is actually cut off a little bit of it and just simply shift it over. And you see, I just have to match these two images right there. That's where the clap is. And you'll hear that the sound is in sync.
what I would like to do now is to actually...
However, when we get to the end of the track, you're going to notice that it is out slightly towards the end here, and it comes across as kind of an echo.
Segments and then just erase them.
That's actually quite easy to fix, and I'll show you how. So what we need to do is to zoom in this last little bit. And you'll see right here where the tracks don't actually line up. And you'll hear there's a little bit of an echo at the end there.
Like that.
So all I need to do is actually to lengthen this, because this track here is compressed just slightly than this track. So this track goes a little bit faster than this one. You can see at the beginning, they begin in sync, and towards the end here, they're out of sync by just a few frames. So just to stretch this timeline slightly, all I need to do is go to this icon right here, and that says Rate Stretch Tool. And what it actually does is it stretches the actual rate of sound throughout the entire track at an equal amount. So I just need to click on there, and then highlight this, and then drag it over until these two soundtracks meet. That looks like it matches up pretty good. So I'm just going to move this back a little bit, and you can hear the last clip and see if they sync.
Segments and then just erase them like that.
So I could probably cut off the rest of this with the pointer tool. And then if I'm satisfied with the sound, I'll listen to it again.
A telephone call in the middle of it.
And then I'll put the mute on this track just to make sure it's what I'd like.
First thing that we're going to have to do is go to the waveform.
And since I prefer it with the mute there, I could then erase this track and eliminate the mute. And there, now I have a new soundtrack on here which I could edit or do whatever I like with. And I'll just put it up one track there and make sure it lines up at the end. There we go.